Good morning, everybody. Hopefully you had a wonderful weekend, and as we kind of wind up summer here, you've been out and enjoying the weather and your families, etc. So we got a kind of a fun call today. It's one of my favorite topics. But before we do that, let's get to the 5G tape breakdown from last week. This advisor has a client excited about buying life long-term care hybrid. Does he close it or does he trip up? So these are the kind of things, guys, when you're running a race, have you ever seen, again, I think this just happened in the Olympics where the guy celebrates too soon, and then what happens? Somebody passes him. So you got to take it to the finish line, right? You got to take it to the finish line. So this is a tape well worth listening to as a reminder of making sure you finish strong. So my favorite topic is food. No, not really. My favorite topic is Warren Buffett. So today I want to talk about Warren Buffett, the way he views things, etc. But there's three big takeaways that I want you to take from this. One is tenure and why, when we covered at the 29-point checklist meeting, it is really not a throwaway. It is a really, really good lever to get people to leave their current advisor. I also want to talk about indexing and then the genius of Buffett. So here's the thing about Buffett. The reason he is considered the greatest, one of the greatest investors of all time, if not the greatest investor of all time, is first of all, does anybody have any idea? Let's see some guesses here. What did Buffett earn from 1965 to 2019? That's 75, 85, 95, 2005, 2015. For 50 years. What was his average rate of return for 50 years? What are some guesses? 10%, Tom says. 14, 12, 8, 19. Very good, Ben. Ben's close. 20.9%. The S&P averaged 9.72. So, guys, did he beat it by a little or by a huge amount? For 50 years, a half a century, he creamed the marketplace. Now, that said, Buffett and S&P have been pretty much tied over the last 15 years or so. His best performing investments have not been, have been private, not stock. So why is that occurring, guys? Why is it becoming more difficult for him to beat the market over the last 15, 20 years? Why? Ben says too big. I think you're on the right, and Dale says program right. I think Ben and Dale are saying too big, problem. Tech in favor. Yeah, I would agree with that too, Mark. But one of the things I think that we're seeing is that how much computing power is Wall Street and all the firms able to put towards discovering better investments? How much more difficult is it for somebody? That's right, Sue. How much more difficult is it for somebody for some guy or some gal to ferret out this unbelievable company that's going to take off? I mean, you can take a lot of bets. I'm not talking about growth stocks, because with growth stocks, what's the number one performing stock, guys? Everybody remember? What's the number one performing stock over the last century? Should all remember this. Very good, Dale. Yep, Mark, Nick's got it. Everybody's got it. Monster drink, right. So how many, but what's the chance of us finding out of that? Because when you look at the stock market, how many stocks perform above the stock market versus how many perform below the stock market? Is it a 50-50? No. It's very much the top quarter make up almost all of the gains, and the bottom three quarters don't even come close. Yeah, 1090, I would even go along with that, Bob, depending on what you look at. So it's just becoming more and more difficult for him now to beat the market. But you know, when you find private deals, obviously you can do that. But let's look at the reason I bring this up, though, is not to do with rates of return. It has to do more with why manager tenure is so important to us. So this is looking at the top 10 firms for manager disclosure and average tenure. So we're looking at big firms here. And when we look at the percentage of funds with undisclosed manager and then average manager tenure. So these are the big 10. What's the average manager tenure? A lot or not very high? High or not high? How long has Warren Buffett been managing the funds? He's beat the market for 50 years. And here the average 10 years, 9 years. And what's the problem with 9 years? What's the problem with 9 years? What's the problem with 6 years, 7? You'd think that, almost a decade would be okay. What's the problem with manager tenure at a decade? What have they seen? Yeah, no bears. That's right. Only been up. That's exactly right. That's the problem. That's the problem. And here's what they found. Investment trusts with an average manager tenure of 12.8 years versus open-ended funds at 7 years. Look at what happens to the rates of return. Is that a little or a lot? 10% versus 8.4, 7.3 versus 6.5. Why do managers with longer tenure generally have a higher rates of return? Because here's the thing. The difference here is what? 1.5%. 1.5% over 10 years, well, let's look at, over 10 years, a 1.5% rate of return for a $500,000 account over 10 years, 1.5% would be the difference between having 928 and 1,079,000. Is that a little difference or a big difference? That's a big difference. Over 20 years, the difference between having 230 or 2,330,000 versus 1.7. So why is it that managers with longer tenures have higher rates of return? They've seen more things. So when we talk about manager tenure, what is the fee? What is the fee to invest with Warren Buffett and Berkshire Hathaway? What is the fee? What is the fee? Close to zero. It may be zero for some. For me, it's $4.95. Why is the fee for investing in Berkshire Hathaway $4.95? Because does Berkshire Hathaway have any internal fees? No. It's just a fee to buy the stock. And do I have to pay that $4.95 every year or just one time? But when you talk about the types of funds and managers that other people are recommending, you're paying how much and for how long? So now I know that some of you are money managers. Is it bad? Is it bad that you do that? No, it's not bad that you charge fees. It's not bad that you have money managers. The fact is, though, you need to what? Hide from the fact? Or that's right, you need to disclose the fact and why it makes sense. Because if you're proud of your money manager, should you be worried about that he only has 7 years of tenure? Yeah, you should be. But if you're not going to disclose it, if you were afraid that somebody would say, look, this guy only has 7 years, if you're afraid of that, then you're part of the solution or part of the problem. See, I can sell a VA after showing VA fees. I can sell a manager tenure with less than 10 years manager as long as I'm what? Disclosing those things. But remember, are we selling at the 21-point checklist, or are we having them discover they have to leave their current guy? Yeah, we're having them discover. So what we're doing at that meeting is having them discover that, wait a minute, we've got investors like Warren Buffett and Yachman and many others out there that have 40, 50, 60 years of experience. And what do they charge? Nothing. And yet this guy has you in a manager who's only got 9 years experience, and they're charging you 1.5% a year. Is that something that people should know? Yeah. So does that make sense? So that's one big thing we draw from Warren Buffett is you can invest in Warren Buffett for nothing or for $5, one-time fee, $5 compared to tens of thousands. Guys, when you run the 21-point checklist, Jeff, what kind of numbers do you see for fees when you run 21-point checklist?
Well, obviously,
$5?
So, no, you're going to see it in the hundreds or thousands of dollars. It depends on the size of the account, honestly, and more than anything.
Hundreds of dollars, though?
It depends on the size of the account. If you're, I mean, I see things. Yeah, I'd say for somebody with $300,000 to $500,000, it's going to run $5,000 to $8,000 in fees.
Versus $5. So should a client know that? Yes, a client should know that. So what advice does, that's the 10-year. Guys, don't throw 10-year out with or just do a rudimentary walkthrough of 10-year. 10-year is a very good tool or lever to get them to discover their guy is hiding information from them. Because if if I sat down with your client and I made a case for Warren Buffett and investing with him for $5 versus your money manager, guess who's going to win that? Anybody want to put a client on the phone with me and have me do that? Doesn't look like I'm getting any takers, because who's going to win that 100% of the time? Yeah. So you need to address it at a 21-point checklist and lever it to get them as a very prominent reason to get them to leave their current advisor. And then when you present, you tell them why it makes sense for you. You just can't sweep it under the rug. So where does Buffett say that when he dies, that money should be invested? Mark says charity. Yeah, he's going to give away a lot of his estate to charity. But where does he say that the rest of the money should, or what, his estate, the money is going to take care of his wife? Where is that supposed to go? Where's that supposed to go? The indexes, S&P 500. Why is he saying that that's where they should put the money? They said 90% of the money should go into the S&P 500 index. Before we do that, where does he say the other 10% should go? Where does he say the other 10% should go? Into government bonds. But then why doesn't he say his estate should just keep the money in Berkshire Hathaway instead of the S&P 500? Why do you think that? Why do you think he didn't say keep it invested in Berkshire Hathaway? He says put it in the S&P 500. Why does he say put it in the S&P 500? Yeah, it's very hard, Ron, and Tom and Mark, to beat the market. Warren Buffett would tell his widow to buy an index fund. She's going to have more money than she needs. The big thing you want is for money not to be a problem. And there's no way, if she holds S&P 500 or virtually none absent something happening with weapons of mass destruction, she won't have all the money she could possibly use. Buffett gave a more detailed version of advice in a 2014 letter to his investors. He said he would deliver cash to his trust for his wife's benefit on his death, and instructions to put 10% in bonds, 90% index funds, preferably those from Vanguard Group. Why? Because there's no fees there. Similarly, advice applies to nearly everyone, Buffett said. Investors, great and small, can see wealth eroded by commissions, fluctuations in specific stocks, or even corrupt advisors, he said. Indeed, most companies and the vast majority of active mutual fund managers fail to outperform the broader market over time. Over the last 15 years, 92% of large cap funds, 92% trailed the S&P 500, according to the Standard & Poor's Dow's indices. And as many as 95% of managers of funds trying to beat indexes for medium-sized companies trail their benchmark indices as well. Well, what about those 5% or 7% that did beat the market? Is it because they are brilliant? Luck, that's right. Just pure luck, right? Buffett's bet with hedge fund managers. And the winner is, okay, so in 2008, Warren Buffett issued a challenge to hedge fund. And guys, what is the fees on a hedge fund? What is the fees on a hedge fund? Little or large? Huge, huge. And people are willing to pay it because why? These hedge fund managers are supposed to do what? Run of the mill or better than you could. Only the rich can afford these guys, right? So Warren Buffett said, I'll bet you you can't beat the market. And what happened? We all know what happened. What happened? He won, yes. So here's the index fund. Here's the different hedge fund managers. The average was 22%. Index was 85%. Guys, why the hell would you pay huge fees for this? Why would you pay huge fees for this? Crazy. So why does Buffett love index funds? Well, let me count the ways. There's no better way to bet in America, he says. says that you should bet on America. For 240 years, it has been a terrible mistake to bet against America. What I tell people with the index is this. You either invest in the index, and if you don't believe that's a good bet, guess what you should buy? Beans and ammunition. Because if America doesn't continue to do well, beans and ammunition will be a better investment than any of the stocks. So he's a true believer that America has been and always will be the leader in innovation, in creating companies, in the economic driving of the world. The American economy and businesses that make up the economy are sure to grow and grow. There's a low or no turnover. I mean, what are we talking about? One stock every couple of years in the S&P 500. Low fees, and it takes the guesswork out of luck and investing. So here's the one thing I always think about the index. What is it evenly spread? Is index return, S&P 500 index return, evenly spread in all 500 stocks? Or where is most of the stocks, most of the return coming from? Yeah, the top 5. Now, is that a bad thing or a good thing? Yes, it's a bad thing and a good thing. But so it's a bad thing because, boy, any one of those 5 can really tank have a problem that can really tank the S&P 500. But it's a good thing because if you were invested in the S&P 500, did you have to pick those top 5? Or did they just rise, did the cream rise to the top? Did you have to have the insight to pick those 5? Or did the cream just rise to the top by being the 500? Yeah. See, you don't have to be brilliant with the S&P 500. You buy the 500 and you let the new. Do any of us have any clue what the top 5 are going to be for the next 10 years? So when you buy the S&P 500, guess what's going to happen? It'll take care of itself. Charlie Munger, who's Warren Buffett's partner, right? What did he say about Buffett? So even great stock pickers like Warren Buffett are finding businesses that once seemed stable are now vulnerable to disruption. Just because Amazon is dominating the world right now, does that mean it's going to continue to dominate the world? Could Alibaba take over? Could Mercado Libre take over? Could some other entity that we don't even know about take over? Because innovation is how hard or easy. Guys, how many billionaires are being created that are less than 30 years old, less than 35 years old, that have no money? They started out with no money, and within 2 or 3 years, they're dominating. So what Bezos did, I don't like the guy personally, but what he did was incredible, but it happened overnight, or it took years and years and years for Amazon to do what it did. It took years and years and years. These new billionaires and these new market disruptors, how long is it taking them to do things? Not very long. And do we even know what's going to be the disruptor? No, we don't. So with indexing, you own a piece of everything so you don't have to predict those disruptions because we just have no clue. In 1999, Buffett was named the top manager of the century, the best in 100 years. So let's take a look at the way he looks at world. First of all, he reads 500 pages a day, which I think is incredible. But he spends all his day doing what? Reading. How many of us read 50 pages a day, let alone 500 pages a day? I mean, I read about 50 pages a day, but that's my max. I certainly can't read or don't read 500 pages a day, which means that he's probably spending how many hours a day reading? Good 8 hours a day reading. So if you want to have the insight, and does he reading stock reports? No. What's he talking about when he says reading? Is he just reading stock reports, or he's reading what? In order for him to have the insight, yeah, he reads everything. That's right, everything. Because in order to have insight about what's good and what's bad, you have to have a very broad knowledge of the world. The average person wants to make money quickly. There is no sure way to lose money. Right now, why is all these Robin Hood guys, they wanted to make money what? By investing or quickly? They wanted to win the lottery or investing? So what the AMC, the GameStop, was that investing, guys? That was speculation, wasn't it? And boy, when you're right with speculation, you can what? Make a ton of money. But every time you make a ton of money, guess what? How many people are losing a ton of money? When you speculate, you can't be right very often. He also says you should only invest in companies you understand. I totally agree with that. I invest on my stock side, I invest in the indexes because I don't understand it. If I'm going to invest in a company, I'm probably investing in a blue chip company that I use their product every single day. Buy the company, not the stock. This also applies to why I love the S&P 500. Because you're not actually buying the company, you're buying the economy. And if you don't believe in the U.S. economy, then I guess I don't know what you should invest in. I always make sure your entry price is much lower than the value of the company. So what does that mean with growth stocks versus value stocks? Because you know what? When you pick a growth stock and it's right, you are really, really right. But how many companies failed with growth stocks? Does anybody either read the book or seen the movie about that lady out in California with the blood testing company that she went up from zero to like billions worth billion. Thanos, thank you. That's right, Thanos. Thank you, Bruce. Thanos, and it ended up that what? And who invested with her? Idiots or some of the most famous people and hedge fund managers and private equity people in the big smart money, right, Ron, invested with her. And she hoodwinked them. Guys, these are the people that invested with not little old you and me. It was the big money managers, the private equity people, and they got killed because they believed her BS. Because the one nice thing about disruption is that we can find some really good growth companies. The bad thing about disruption is what? People start believing in everything. They start to believing, oh, she could find with one drop of blood, she could do a gazillion different tests. Because, technology ain't it great. People start to believe in that stuff. So why does Buffett invest in value versus growth stocks? Growth is a bet. Value is what? When you buy a TV or a car and it's on sale for 30%, that's a what? A sure thing. So he invests in sure things. Now, the only way the sure thing can blow up is if he didn't understand the company as much as he thought. But if you buy a company for less than the value of the company, it's eventually going to return to mean or more, right? Oh, Bruce brings up the fact that he read Benjamin Graham. Better than that. We're about to get there, Bruce. We're about to get there. He said, learn the basics of, boy, in fact, we got their next slide. Very good, Bruce. Learn the basics of investing. So these are 3 books that if you're going to make recommendations in stock, you should have read these 3 books. First one is The Intelligent Investor, and that's written by Benjamin Graham. Then One Up on Wall Street by Peter Lynch, and Invest Like Buffett, Matthew Kratter. You should read these 3 books if you're making recommendations on making recommendations any type of stocks. But I read 2 of them and then I donated them. Why? I read 2 of those books and I said, I donated them. Why? Because there's no better way to invest in than to bet on America by investing in an index. There's 240 years it's been a terrible mistake to bet against America. All the reasons it makes sense to be in indexes. Do I need those books or to be an expert on finding that individual stock if I'm investing in the index? And we just showed that the big kings of investing, hedge fund managers, how much better were they at picking stocks? Warren Buffett in the last 15 years, how much was he better at picking stocks? Is anybody better at picking stocks than just betting on the whole entire market? Well, if they are, guess what? Would you and I ever be able to invest with them or our clients? No. He also says fees, fees, fees. When trillions of dollars are managed by Wall Streeters charging high fees, it will usually be the managers who reap the outside profits, not the clients. So who do you think made more money in the last 10 years, those hedge fund managers? The hedge fund managers or their clients? The hedge fund managers did. They came out smelling like a rose. Investors should remember that excitement expenses are their enemies. Because when you're excited about a stock, I mean, Amazon can only go one way. Tesla can only go one way. Do you care about what it's priced at? No, it'll catch up. It'll catch up. That is how dangerous. Super dangerous. Because excitement and overpaying for things, whether it's expenses to the managers or companies that are way overpriced, that's your enemy. If returns are going to be 7 or 8% and you're paying 1% for fees, that makes an enormous difference in how much money you're going to have in retirement. Guys, 1% on a 7 or 8%, that's what? How much are people being robbed from the return? Wall Street is the only place that people ride in a Rolls Royce to get advice from those who take the subway. I never attempt to make money on the stock market. I buy on the assumption that they could close the market the next day and not open it for 10 years. So when I'm investing in S&P 500, am I investing in a company that, geez, I'm looking at it every single day thinking, oh, what's going to happen this way or that way? No. I'm saying I think that over 10 years, the economy is going to grow. Now, right now, I would invest in the S&P 500. Why? There's only one way I'd invest in the S&P 500, which is where half my money is. That's half my money is in fixed index annuities. Why? Why would I put? In fact, I'm just going to be putting another big few $100,000 in another FIA. Why? Not only is there no downside, what does it do for me? Because right now, remember we've looked at the Shiller Cape, and right now, forward-looking, best case scenario is you'll make nothing over the next 10 years. If it returns to mean, you're going to lose 5% a year for the next 10 years. But does that mean it's going to be 0 or -5 each year for the next 10 years? What does that mean? How do FIAs work, guys? What's the advantage of FIAs? What does it do automatically for you? Yes, Nick, volatility. What do you mean by volatility? And right, Dean, it grows even when it's stagnant. What? Yes, I buy low and sell high. It has an annual reset. Because when the market is totally out of whack, when you look at the trend lines and they're way, 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 way over where they should be, there's going to be a return to mean. It's going to go, and does it just go back to average, or does it usually dip way below average when you look at the trend lines? It goes way below the average. And do I have to guess when that's going to happen, or with an FIA, does it happen automatically? Happens automatically. Buffett's 3 tenets of choosing money management. Are they rational? Do they admit when they make mistakes? And do they resist the lust for activity and following its competitors? How hard would it be really to judge these things? Maybe you're better than me. I have no clue on how to judge these things. I guess we could look at this. What would we look here? Does it resist the lust for activity and following its competitors? What would we be looking at here? Turnover, that's right. How much turnover does that company have? You know, and does it ever admit mistakes? Who's that bozo on CNBC that has he's always screaming at the screen about stocks? It's basically called Miss Kramer. Does he ever admit that he's made a mistake? And how many mistakes has that guy made? And little mistakes are freaking huge mistakes. Huge mistakes. So these are things that I think are very hard to measure. Don't try to drive a 9,800-pound truck over a bridge with a 10,000-pound capacity. Go down the road a bit further and find a bridge with 15,000-pound capacity. What does he mean here? What does he mean here? Where's the market? Price right now? Way over it's ever been before, or way under? Yeah, to perfection, way over. It's assumed that everything's going to go perfectly. There's going to be no more problems with COVID. The interest rates are going to stay low. There's going to be no inflation. There's going to be no political drama. There's going to be no wars around the world. Everything is sunshine and rainbows. That's where it's priced right now. So could it still go up? Yeah, because the market can do whatever the heck it wants. It still could go up. But right now, we're on that 9,800-pound truck, and that market is what? A 10,000-pound capacity or a 15,000-pound capacity? We are right at the edge. My opinion is we're on a 9,800-pound truck, and the capacity is actually probably 8,000 pounds. Yeah, I agree, Howard. Very good, Howard. You and I are on the same page, right, Steve? So if you're looking to reduce risk, don't push separate. And we've talked about this before. When we've looked at those charts, if you pulled out of the market and put money into an FIA in 98 or 99 before, were you hurt when the market crashed in 2000? If you waited until it got out the day before it crashed in 2000, how much more were you ahead than if you pulled out a 99 or 98? A lot ahead or barely any ahead? Barely any. How about in pulling out in 2006 and 2007 before the 2008? Were you way ahead or barely ahead? Barely. So don't push where we're at. In 1930, thinking the worst is over, this is Benjamin Graham, who many people, including Warren Buffett, believe is the best investor who's ever walked the earth in the United States anyways. In 1930, the worst was over. He used the margin to leverage what he thought would be a terrific returns, but the worst was not over. He lost 50% over 1929 to 32, and then he lost another 70%. Guys, can the market do that to you? So just because the market's down 50%, does that mean it's not going to go down anymore? And certainly, just because the market goes down 50% and comes back in the next 2 months, does that mean it's going to happen that way the next time the market goes down? He was Benjamin Graham, who later gave us the concept and importance of applying margin of safety, the intelligent investor. Rule number 1, never lose money. Rule number 2, don't forget rule number 1. It's not necessary to do extraordinary things to get extraordinary results. Investing in the index, is that extraordinary? Or can anybody do it? Oh, I love that, Steve. When genius failed. Exactly right. But as we saw, the most ordinary of investments, the S&P 500, beat the biggest gurus in investing out there by a little or by a lot. By a lot. Success in investing doesn't correlate to IQ. Once you're above the level of 25, once you have ordinary intelligence, what you need is the temperament to control the urges to get other people into trouble in investing. So by investing, well, first of all, what does an FIA do for people? What is temperament free? Why is an FIA temperament free? Do you worry if the market's going to fall in a FIA? No. Do you worry that you're missing out on the gains in an FIA? In a hot market? It's a win-win, right? You win when the market's up. You win when the market's down. You automatically buy low. You automatically sell high. It takes the temperament out. It's not genius. It's not genius that makes you, as we saw, how many people beat the market? How many geniuses beat the market? None. None do. And Ron says few. When I say geniuses, I mean they did it because they were skilled and not because they were lucky. They were skilled, not because, guys, were any of the people beating the market skilled? Anybody beat the market skilled? They were lucky. You know, you've heard, has anybody here not heard my Russian roulette analogy? Okay, so everybody's heard it. Oh, Bruce says he hasn't heard it. I'm just going to quickly do it. So how many bullets are in a revolver? 6 bullets, right? So I'm going to give $10 million to the winner of a Russian roulette contest. So I have 1,000 people sign up. First shot, guess what? How many am I going to lose? 6 of them. Okay. Spin the dial. We do it again. How am I going to lose? 6 of those. Spin the dial. How am I going to lose? 6 of those. Spin the dial. Spin the revolver. Boom, boom, boom. Eventually, after 20, 25 spins, we're down to maybe 10 people, right? So now, would I advertise? Would the New York Times, the USA Today say, listen, these guys are the most skilled, these 10 people out of 1,000 were the most skilled Russian roulette players in the world. Is that what they're going to say? Were they skilled? No. They were what? Lucky. So there's always going to be somebody who's going to beat the market, but it's not because of skill. It's because they were at the right place at the right time. Even Peter Lynch admitted that he was not skilled. Why did Peter Lynch beat the market so handily in the 90s? Because he was invested in retail stocks. That's right, Tom. He was invested in retail stocks. He was heavily invested in one sector. That's it. And if you heavily invest in one sector and that sector is the best one for the decade, guess what automatically happens? But what happened to Peter Lynch in the 2000s? What happened to Peter Lynch in the 2000s in Magellan Fund? Got down a little or got killed? Not good, right? Not good, got killed. That's why we want to do fixed income. Only when the tide goes out do you discover who's been swimming naked. So do we have any clue right now, when the market goes, do we have any clue who's the smart investor right now before the market goes down? No. When the market goes down, then we'll figure out, which money manager was awesome. And guess how many we're going to find? Which money managers were awesome when the market goes down 50%? Because when the market went down here a couple of years ago in March for 50%, how many managers were out of the market at that point? None. They all went down. They're just lucky the market came back in the next couple of months. We've long felt that the only value of stock forecasters is to make a fortune and tellers look good. Even now, Charlie and I continue to believe that short-term market forecasts are poison and should be kept locked up in a safe place, away from children and also grown-ups who behave like the market in the market like children. Nobody knows what's going to happen tomorrow, do we? So that's why he invests with how long an outlook? 10-year outlooks. 10-year outlooks. The years ahead will occasionally deliver major market declines, even panics that will affect virtually all stocks. No one can tell you when the traumas will occur. Not me, not Charlie, not the economists, not the media. During such scary periods, you should never forget 2 things. First, widespread fear is your friend as an investor because it serves up bargain purchases. Second, personal fears is your enemy. So guys, I have millions of dollars in cash right now making jack squat, and inflation is killing me. Why? So half my money is invested in FIAs, but about half of my other half is sitting in cash. Why? Because right now, are people afraid? Or are they like, is everybody a stock genius right now? Do I want to be putting my money in when everybody's a stock genius? No, I want to get in when everybody says what? Oh, that market, I knew I shouldn't have put the market in there, in the market. I knew it was going to take me. I didn't learn my lesson. I want to invest when nobody else is willing to invest. That's when I'm going to put that cash back in. Does that make sense? Most people get interested in stocks when everybody else is. The time to get interested is when nobody else is. That money that's sitting on the sideline right now is I'm waiting for nobody to be interested in the market more. I'm waiting for it to be so ugly. And guys, will it get there? Will there be a point in the next few years when it gets there, where the market gets that ugly? Yes. Keep things simple. Don't swing for the fences. When promised quick profits, respond with a quick no. That's why right now, guys, having your money at 50-50, having your money at stocks 40%, FIA 60%, or FIA 60%, stocks 40%, that's where you need to be. That's where you need to be. You cannot be falling for all the hype. I know it's hard. Guys, when I got $1 million sitting in cash right now, do you think that that's an easy thing for me to do? When I look what's happening with inflation, when I look at the, boy, I was happy. I locked in a 0.5% rate of return, 0.5 on my cash. Wow, that's awesome, right? No, it's crap. So is it even hard for me to be sitting there looking at that? Am I tempted? Right now, I'm tempted to put all that money into FIAs and wait. And so if I'm wrong and the market keeps going up, I'm making money. And if I'm right and the market falls 50%, what can I do with my FIAs? If you want a perfect money manager, because a lot of us will say, yeah, I'll take my 10% penalty, and how much am I ahead if I pop in the market at that point? The market falls 50%, and I'm deliberating this right now just to put it all in that. And then if I'm wrong and the market keeps going up, well, I'm making money. If I'm right, when the market falls, I'll pull out with a 10% penalty, and I'll be 40% ahead. Does that make sense? Do you think that's an idiotic way to approach money management for myself? Maybe for your clients it's not, but for me, because I know the market's going to go down. Do I know it's going to go down tomorrow? No. Next month? No. Next year? No. Next year following that? No. Next year following that? No. All I know is that the longer this goes, what happens, the chance of it going down? A little, not a little bit, a lot. A lot. And guys, looking at the world right now, is it all sunshine and rainbows? Politically, is it all sunshine and rainbows? Economically, is it all sunshine and rainbows? Health-wise, is it all sunshine and rainbows? The market is priced to perfection now, and is the world perfect? No. Does that make sense? So and at this point, we mix this up a lot. Are we investing in FIAs to beat the market, guys? No. What is FIAs for? Your safe money. Is it going to beat bonds? Will FIAs beat the hell out of bonds going forward? Yes, without even thinking about it. Okay? So please, 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 if you do not have your clients' portfolios balanced now, rebalance, get them rebalanced, and be talking to people about these things. So I hope you don't mind that. I love Warren Buffett. There's so much. I actually had I could have made 3 calls on Warren Buffett. His history is unbelievable. Started out selling chewing gum, door to door. He invested that. He made how he made his first million. I mean, he's an incredible person. But I thought I had never done a call like this before. We can gather so much from that guy and the way he views the world. And he's an old guy. He has old values, but those old values, do they still work today? Yes. And if you could afford to have that $3 million lunch with him, how many of you would be willing to do that? I know I would. Cool. So I thank you for letting me indulge in one of my favorite topics, which is Warren Buffett. And I hope you were able to gather a few tidbits from this. But the biggest thing you should gather is this: guys, get your clients rebalanced right now, and be thinking smart, not emotionally. Use your brain, not your heart, not your gut. Make sense? Thanks, everybody. You have a great rest of the week. And we'll talk to you next Monday. Thanks.